This morning, I was scoping out successful niche job boards because I personally just launched a niche job board to complement a continuing professional education course business that I have. And I ran across this company right here, ihire.com. And I'd never seen them or heard of them up until about an hour ago when I ran across their website. And they have over 57 industry focused job boards, and you can see them all right down here, 57, a whole bunch of them, and they've got an active member count for the last 30 days in 50,000, or not 50,000, 50,000 for this one, but they've got a count of live jobs on the website here for each one of these. So I wanted to open up one of them, their largest one, and kind of go through it and unpack some of the key details of success or some of the lessons that we can learn from these job boards, the most active one in particular, that we could possibly apply to our own job boards, or I could myself as someone out there getting into this space. So the largest one I found on here was the iHire admin. There it is, right at the top, with 316,900 members. So I opened that up, and I'm going to go through it here and really kind of unpack or share with you what I think the key lessons we can learn from this job board are. And we'll start before I even open that one up. And I think that number one is have a community approach. And we can see that they're doing that, or they're considering that, by counting up the active members. All right, they're not calling them job seekers here. They're referring to them in a context of people that are engaged. And we can also see that here with the use of the word communities. And I think this is very important because the days of just publishing jobs on a website and capturing search traffic are long gone. That, doesn't happen, or I don't want to say it doesn't happen, it still happens. But it's not going to be robust going forward because search engines are trying to serve the content themselves. Google's trying to drive more users to their own content, and Google has their own jobs platform, and they're trying to drive users to paid content. You really cannot rely on just generic information or API fetched information and redisplayed content, i.e. job postings, to really capture traffic. And at the same time, the traffic that you do capture is just kind of one hit and done. Once they find a job, they move on. I think to really be successful with a job board, you have to focus on building some type of community around it. And clearly this company has done that and has made that a very, very high priority focus for them. Okay, so let's head on into their job board right here. And I will point out, from checking all of the other job boards, they're all following the exact same template, and they are probably all using the exact same database and back end. Not that that's largely applicable to you or me if we're just out there trying to spin up one niche job board. All right. So nothing, on the homepage, nothing like revolutionary here. All pretty standard content. So where I want to go is into the resource center. Okay. And this kind of builds on the community, or is the core of the community. We notice that they are publishing quite a bit of content here in the last 30 days. It's November 22nd, 2025. Looks like they have published 4 pieces of content here, but they have this going back. So 702 pieces of content at 4 a month. I mean, this is going back 10 years, maybe. I mean, assuming that they have maintained a steady rate. Maybe they kind of seeded with a bunch of content at some point, but that's just for job seekers. They also have the content for employers here, and that's effectively doubling up on the content that they're publishing. So they're publishing a lot of relevant content, and it is also pretty high quality, but it is not necessarily industry specific. That is something that I want to point out. Like, they don't have a if you look at who's publishing this content here, they don't have somebody that is an admin specific expert, they have someone that is just HR in general. And I noticed this among all of their sites. They've basically got someone that is a career and hiring expert, but not necessarily industry specific, that is publishing their content. So they've got a small team of content creators that are not necessarily industry specific, but they are professionals in their role or experts in the hiring industry. We don't really need industry experts here for an admin job board, but for something else like banking, there could be an advanced, or not an advanced, but there could be an expert content creator. Accounting, there could be expert content creators, but they're not. They're just using generalist career guidance experts, not so much industry specific. So just something to consider. Publish high quality content is my take on it, but you don't need to go out and find the true credentialed expert in that industry. A generalist in the source of hiring seems to be quite effective. Now, with the content, key lesson here, they are capturing email addresses. And I think this is a key element of their success and the way that they build content. So let's just go to one of these webinars. Register. You need to put in an email access. I don't know what happens if you click no thanks. If you click no thanks, you're not getting the webinar. So they're capturing the email address. I'm sure they're verifying it here, and that's just a factor of how A, robust their system is and it is well built out, but B, the fact that they're really driving the email signups. Because we'll see if we go in here to browse jobs and get in here to the apply now, they're going to gate you to capture that email address. All right. So capturing the email address allows you to have a direct line of marketing with the user. And this is very, very key, because let's go back to the beginning when I said that I was picking the largest one they had by active member count. When we come to the search traffic analysis of this website, we can see here that it is not really it's at these numbers, it's not really a organic traffic magnet. It is not pulling in the organic traffic, and it looks like it was at some point, and Google kind of filtered them out. It looks like they run some paid ads at some point. That's kind of interesting. Yeah, they don't. SEMrush no longer has the paid keyword data, but that's very interesting, right? But overall, they don't get a ton of traffic here. And I think this is incredibly wild, considering they have the highest active member count. If you open up some of these other job boards, like I did, I opened up the accounting, it gets substantially more traffic, but has fewer active members. And yes, there's a difference between the total addressable market, I guess, of job seekers, right? There's more people looking for admin jobs than there are actual accountants out there. But still, relative to the search volume, they've got a very high active member count. And this is because they're just capturing the email addresses at every point of, potential capture they can. They're maximizing that. And I'm sure that they've got a beautiful email sequence of content and keep content coming out regularly to keep the users engaged. And by users, I'm talking about job seekers, but they also probably have the same thing for employers. Personally speaking, I'm very impressed at the size of that active member count relative to the traffic here. I mean, this means everybody that comes in over years, they're capturing those email addresses and just pulling them back, right? Yeah. So let's talk more about the job seekers here and go to this page, the why join. Yeah, here it is. They've got some job seeker features here, like a featured applicant status, job X-ray. I don't know what this is. An iScore resume match, something that's matching the resume to the job, right? Premium member webinars. And as you can see here, some of them they have to pay for. And I don't know how much they charge on the backside of this $1 funnel. I guess you don't know until you sign up. But I would guess that once they get the user signed up, they're kind of saying, hey, did you find a job? Did you find a job? Okay, you've been in your role for 1 year now, find the next job. And they're doing all of that by emailing. While this looks good on the front end, I would guess that they have an even better and more robust system built out for their actual user base on the back end to keep people engaged. So lesson, build out a robust back end to keep users engaged. Have valuable tools included for the job seekers that you can use to upsell. All right. Now, they're not just monetizing job seekers, they are also monetizing employers. So they're monetizing, on both ends. It's effectively a marketplace business model here, right? Like you're matching candidates to employers, and they're monetizing both the candidates and employers here. That is incredibly, incredibly powerful. Now, you can't come out swinging and doing this when you first launch your job board, right? You have to see where you get more traction at, etc. So let's move on from that here. I think that the large business and enterprise section here is very powerful. This shows me that they're building out their model or have built out their model to cater to the large businesses with outsourced recruiting and also connecting to the applicant tracking systems. These are applicant tracking systems. All these large businesses use it to manage the resumes and the whole hiring process. They're allowing the users to connect right into it. That's something I really haven't seen before. And I think it's good because a large business may want to post directly on here for more exposure, but they're not going to do that unless it integrates with their system. Outsource recruiting, obviously it's a valuable upsell there. It's something that you have to manage as the business owner, but you can most likely charge a premium for it. Now, do they have this all for small businesses? They have the applicant tracking system because that's universal, right? Many of the small businesses probably don't use an applicant tracking system. That could be a big opportunity for this business to create their own applicant tracking system. I think Indeed has done that. But notice there is no hiring outsource here, right? No hiring as a service. I think that clearly iHire's figured out that the big money for that is going into large businesses that will pay a premium for hiring services and hire mass numbers of candidates where they can charge a premium. All right, so I don't know what count I am up to here, but there's one other thing I wanted to point out here, and this is search focused. And that was, well, let's just look at some of the keywords here that are driving traffic. Like this one, office manager jobs, which captures 9.72% of the organic traffic to this website. Look at the page they have, and I look at it and I see this .html in the URL. That tells me that it was a custom built page just for this keyword. And that tells me that because if we look at some of the other pages, right, like we're not seeing that .html at the end of them, except for the ones that are specifically targeting a specific keyword, like operator, switchboard jobs, appointment clerk jobs. Right? They've built out these pages specifically just to capture search traffic here. So it's kind of SEO 101, but on these pages, and I don't know what they look like, all of them, but they've got some custom graphic there for compensation range, education level, some charts and stuff to make them more appealing. Yeah, so lots to take away here. Beautiful case study to reverse engineer for building a niche job board. I hope you guys found this video helpful and insightful. If you did, you know the drill. Smash that like button to help me out in the YouTube algorithm. I am calling it a wrap and signing off on that note.